Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a drink. It is time for some Path of Exile 1 discussion. We are 1 and a bit days into the Mirage League at the moment, and I wanted to take a quick look at the early meta. What builds have performed really well so far, and also which builds are not really popular yet, but have some potential in the future. However, I do just quickly want to announce one thing first, and that is a very, very important change from what was originally talked about in the patch notes and the original trailer. And that turns out that these Nightmare maps, which are the nerf version of tier 17s, these have had a stealth change, or they've had a change that we weren't expecting. And that is that they are back to being modifiable only with Chaos Orbs, Val Orbs, Delirium Orbs, and Chisels. Everyone just interpreted what they were saying as this line was going away because it was seen as being solely a tier 17 thing, and therefore changing it to a Nightmare map would remove that. And as a result, we all expected Chaos Orbs to be completely in the dumpster this league. However, this is an example of an item that has dropped in the Mirage League, and it has that text. So all of these Nightmare maps, they are Chaos Orbs only, and that means there will be ongoing demand for Chaos Orbs throughout this league. This is important both for Trade League players, but also for solo self-found players. There is some sort of use that you might want to keep some Chaos Orbs squirreled away for. Even if you're not even close to Nightmare maps yet, you'll get there eventually. And at that point, you're going to be pretty sad if you have absolutely none of them left. So that was just a really important announcement I needed to make at the start because it's something that everyone had been wrong on what it was going to be, and it has far-running consequences for the entirety of the league. All of that out of the way, let's get to the main meat of this video, which is looking at the builds that have been really popular so far. Now, website POE.ninja aggregates all of the high-level characters it can get its hands on. Now, this is people who don't actively opt out, who have either ever appeared on the ladder, or people who decide to opt in to their site but have never been on the ladder, or people who are actively trading. So basically every now and again, the website will take a quick look at who's involved in trading at the time through Grinding Your Games' Trade API. All those characters, unless they've opted out or by making their characters private, they're going to appear here, and as a result, you're going to be able to find out what's popular in terms of high-level play. Now, currently, if you go to the website, you will see level 50 and up characters. I don't actually think that's the best guide. I think it's best to have a look at what people who've played quite a bit are doing. So I'm going to cut off at level 85. You're going to be 85 plus if you're the sort of player that is not your first time doing a league start and you've played a lot so far. If you're someone who's played a bunch more casually, then you might not be at level 85 yet, but that's fine. You can still have a look and see what information has been worked out by the people that are ahead of you in progression. Now, there are 35,614 characters that are indexed here, but I do think it's actually a lot more than that. The reason I say that is if we have a look at the Mirage ladder at the moment, you can see that there are currently, still nine people who are level 100. And by the time that you're seeing this, assuming that they're online at the moment, player number 10 is going to get there as well because they're really close. They're only like 16 million XP away from level 100. So 9 or 10 players that are level 100 already. But if we have a look down at 15,000th, which is the furthest down you can go, you'll see here that there are players that are level 92, and that's where the cutoff is. So in my experience, there are a lot more people, a lot more people who are in the 80s and the 90s. And I think you would find that 85 plus, it's probably something like 75,000 players by now. Path of Exile players are fast. This is just something that happens at League Start. And we also tend to know Life League Start a lot as well. Let's go to level 85 plus and have a look at what we can see. Firstly, we have the Hierophant is number 1. And it's interesting when we drill down. There's one build on the Hierophant that's been really hyped, and it's doing really well. But there's also a couple of other things that have just flown under the radar and seem to be doing pretty well as well. Let's start with the Hierophant, and you'll see that we have 65% of people who are playing a Hierophant are playing Kinetic Fusillade. And when we drill down into that, you'll see they're all playing Ballista Totems. So, Ballista Totem support, less duration support, greater volley support, almost absolutely universal when it comes to those people who are playing Kinetic Fusillade on a Hierophant. On top of that, it's very common to use elemental damage with attack support and increased critical damage support, but which one of those you use first when you're still sitting on a 5-link is something that people will differ on. And as a result, you'll see that there's a bit of a disagreement. It's not like there's an exact 100% of people using elemental damage with attacks and 40% of people using increased critical damage. Now, people just use whichever one they've got. And also sometimes if they've got an armor piece that's got good explicit modifiers, but that is hard to chrome for this skill, then they might end up using just whatever they get, or whatever chromes up first on it. So that's the sort of starting setup that people are using in conjunction with this skill. And then there's a few other support gems people are using. I do want to point out why people might be using added lightning damage support here. It's not that it's generally very good, but sometimes you're going to come across the unique item Piscator's Vigil. It's not necessarily worth rebuilding your entire character around Piscator's Vigil, but if you happen to have it early, like I happen to get it to drop early, then you can equip it. It's reasonably good, but it does require different support gems to what you would run otherwise, because the weapon has no lightning damage or other elemental damage at all on the actual weapon itself, but it has a lot of multipliers to it. So in that case, you can use added lightning support just to get that starter damage, and that will end up being far superior to using increased critical damage. For me though, I don't have a leveled added lightning damage support, so it still worked out for me. It was better than my old wand, but not by very much. That's Kinetic Fusillade Totems. Really fun build, really explosive power during the campaign, really explosive power in early maps, then starts to have a couple of squishiness problems after that, but there's good write-ups on how to solve those by people like Pelsteron. One thing you will notice though, if you're having a look here, actually let's stay drilled down to Kinetic Fusillade. If we have a look at the shields people are using, you'll see that 86% of people are using a rare shield at the moment, and 8% of people are using Aegis Aurora. This shield is very expensive at the moment, and that's the reason that it's not 86 and 8% the other way around. Aegis Aurora is arguably maybe best in slot for this build. It's really hard to beat. It is really, really strong. Everyone should probably aspire to have it, but of course, you probably don't have it yet because it's really early on and the item is tier 2 rarity. And of course, the item is something like 10 divines for a reason too. That's the Hierophants that are playing with Kinetic Fusillade. But what about the people who are not? Because there's actually a lot of people playing the Hierophant but not playing Kinetic Fusillade. Well, they're mostly playing some sort of big mana build. So we have Shock Nova of Procession, we have Ice Nova of Frostbolts. Both of these are overwhelmingly being used in conjunction with Archmage support. We have Kinetic Blast of Clustering, which is inherently something that is very, very much Archmage type build. On top of that, we have a couple of things that are a bit different, like people that are playing around with Stormburst. Stormburst is another totem build, but this is a spell-based totem build. That's basically the sort of things we're looking at here. The big breakout here is Shock Nova of Procession is the most popular of these skills for big mana, and that's something that you should keep in mind. Might be a little bit of fun to play around with if you're looking for a Hierophant that is nothing to do with Kinetic Fusillade totems at all. Second most popular ascendancy is the Slayer, and here we have something that went under the radar for a little while and then got an explosion of interest pre-launch, and that is Slayer Elemental Hit. If we have a look at the Slayers, the 49% of them that are high level are running Elemental Hit as their primary skill. Elemental Hit is a very complex skill. Don't want to go through all of its mechanics here, but it's something that's doing really well at the moment. It's just got a lot of damage on really bad gear, and it's something that's scaled up really well. A lot of the people that got to very, very high levels very, very early, they ended up playing Elemental Hit and doing really well with it. So that's the Slayer. In terms of other things here, you'll see that there's a number of people who are playing various slam gems. And what I want to do now is take a look at the Slams archetype, because the Slams archetype, taken as a whole, is pretty close to our third place here. The way that you can tell people are playing a slam build is you can have a look for people who are running auto exertion support. It's not strictly the case that absolutely every individual that's running auto exertion support is playing a slams build, but it's pretty close to that. And then when we have a look here, you'll see that we've got a lot of people who are Ground Slam of Earthshaking enjoyers, Sunder, Earthshatter, despite the nerfs that it got, a General's Cry, which is kind of its own weird thing, and Shockwave is its own different thing as well. It's something that's just quite different to a lot of other gems. Then we do have Cyclone of Tumult here, which is actually not a slam build, it's something else. And likewise, a couple of other things that are further down are not slams. The new slam, Holy Hammers, is not doing particularly well so far. I'm not saying it's necessarily unplayable. It's just that it doesn't seem to have been solved yet. People aren't particularly happy with the current state that the builds that exist for it are in. Anyways, in terms of slams, they're sitting at about 12% of the early meta for level 85 plus characters. Deadeye's coming next. Now, Deadeye is in this interesting spot. Deadeye is the third most popular ascendancy when we restrict to level 85 plus, but if we restrict to 95 plus, Deadeye is the most popular ascendancy. It overtakes Slayer, overtakes the Hierophant, overtakes everything else, and it is the most popular. Why is that? That's because Deadeye is very, very good at annihilating entire packs of weak monsters really fast. That's Deadeye's specialty. And the thing that that does is it gives you a lot of XP. So if you're interested in XPing fast, and particularly if you wanted to be competitive in the race to 100, well, Deadeye was going to be one of the ways to do that. In terms of the builds people are playing, Elemental Hit of the Spectrum is by far the most popular of the bow skills. It's just a bit better than a bunch of the other ones, but the thing is that it plays very similarly. So you have Ele Hit of the Spectrum is very similar as a skill to Lightning Arrow, and it's just a little bit better than Lightning Arrow. So it's not like it's miles better, but if you've got a Lightning Arrow build, one of the easiest things you can do to upgrade it is to change it into a comparable Elemental Hit of the Spectrum build. After that, there's Kinetic Blast, so there's a few wand builds here as well. And we've got Venom Jar as well, which is another type of projectile attack skill. Everything here, though, is very much projectile attacks. You also notice that Hyrie's Truth, this amulet is incredibly popular on these builds, with 63% of people running it, both for the tremendous amount of dexterity that it gives you, which solves a bunch of problems sometimes, and for precision, level 30 precision and 100% localized mana reservation efficiency to that skill. This thing is fantastic, and bow attacks have Culling Strike is gravy. This thing is one of the best items around, and it's something that's also very accessible. So where all the Hierophants aspire to getting Aegis Aurora, all the Deadeyes already have their Hierophant's Truth. Necromancer is coming in next, and Necromancer is one of those things where there's a lot of things you can do with it. So we have Kinetic Blaster Clustering, one of the big mana type skills. We have Animate Guardian as a heavy link skill. We have Summon Holy Relic of Conviction. This skill is underplayed. This skill is really, really good. This should be much higher up the list of most popular builds than it is. It's incredibly good. It's primarily played with poison, but it doesn't have to be played with poison. It's good from level 1 all the way up to the pinnacle bosses. But then we've got Raised Spectre, Animate Weapon of Ranged Arms, Absolution, basically all sorts of different summoner builds. Necromancer tends to be best for most of them. Guardian is also competitive in some cases, but most of the time people find the Necromancer just fits their plans a bit better. From there, that's the top 4, and those 4 stand out over and above everything else. It's interesting to note there is nothing as dominant as Volcanic Fissure of Snaking was 2 leagues ago, but we do have quite a lot of clustering around the Hierophant Kinetic Fusillade totems. Next, we have something that got a big nerf but is still good. This is the Elementalist Ascendancy, coming in 5th at the moment, and there's Glacial Cascade of the Fissure Mines is one way of playing this. This is something where GC of the Fissure Mines needs a lot of different scaling axes to get going, but the Golem package actually gives you them. And then on top of that, there's the physical damage over time archetype that works well, but there's also cold damage over time. There's just a lot of things you can do with the Elementalist. It's kind of good at almost everything, but best at not very many things anymore, which is not a bad spot for it to be in. It's just very versatile and solid. Chieftain, of course, fire damage over time builds, aka Righteous Fire, Fire Trap, absolutely overwhelmingly at the top. Detonate Debt of Scavenging also playable and popular, and a couple of people, but not very many, experimenting with the new Searing Bond of Detonation. I would expect that that's being played as a supplementary skill to Righteous Fire, so people are playing Righteous Fire as their primary damage and Searing Bond of Detonation as an experimental secondary. That's something that's there. After that, we have Pathfinder. Pathfinder is something that is mostly played for poison, and you can see here, Poisonous Concoction of Bouncing, Toxic Rain, Caustic Arrow are the top 3 skills for this, but it really is the Poisonous Concoction Ascendancy. A very fast leveling character, very, very solid. You'll see 2 of the 9 level 100s that are here, people who are playing on the Pathfinder, and of course, they are using Poisonous Concoction of Bouncing there. Very, very solid setup. After this, we have the Guardian, the Berserker, the Trickster, the Champion, the Gladiator, the Juggernaut, the Inquisitor, all doing reasonably well. And none of the rest are really completely in the dumpster except poor Saboteur. Warden, Ascendant, Occultist, Assassin, Reliquarian, all doing okay. Reliquarian's likely to go up as people get a bit more confident with some of the things that people are playing with it. And unfortunately, Saboteur kind of been sabotaged by the last changes that he took, and he's just not very popular at all. How does this change when we look at a higher level cutoff? Well, let's jump up to level 94. So at this point, you have to be solidly onto the ladder. And here you'll see it is Slayer that takes over from Hierophant. Still have Deadeye, still have Necromancer, and Elementalist falls a little bit behind. We've got Chieftain, Berserker, Inquisitor, and Champion all start doing a little bit better here as well. They all start to move up. And if we were to jump to level 97, which is starting to get to a really elite level at this place, you're only looking at 35 characters that are on the last snapshot, and not that many more if you were actually to look at it on the Mirage ladder. So we'll just see where the cutoff is right this instant. So there are actually a few more people, but there's not even 100 people there yet. And you will see that there's a lot of Deadeyes here, a modest number of Hierophants, Necromancers, a small number of Juggernauts, but not very many of them, and lots of just the things that have been well established as doing really well, alongside things that are very good as Aurabots, because Aurabots will help you get further in the game as well. But at the very top, the first two people to level 100, they were both Pathfinders. Deadeye, of course, being the best class here because it's so good at just projecting damage across entire screens, often with one of these champions alongside it, and you'll see here that these are Aura setups. We've got Smite and Wrath as multi-links. These are Aurabot setups, and they will be therefore paired alongside one of the Deadeyes and getting those really quickly to level 100. That's a quick look at the early meta so far. I'm just going to leave it with a final reminder, which is that the Mirage launch week Twitch drops promo is still on. So if you come and have a look at my stream over on Twitch, you'll potentially be able to qualify for that. Details of that down in the description below. Otherwise, may your Varlorbs and your volatile Varlorbs have interesting results.